Hey, it's Tara with Reiki on the Run, and I'm super excited to start a new series today on change. When I make the other videos, I'll make a link below. I'll create a playlist, and I'll link the other videos in this series down below. If you haven't seen me in a while, well, I don't think I've been on in a while, but I've dreaded my hair again. As you can see, it's going to look like a rat's nest for the next year or so, or depending on your opinion, forever. So you'll have to deal with that. I'm really excited though to talk about this. It's interesting. I've been writing this series for some time now, several weeks, getting it all ironed out, and I've been thrown into a complete huge change in my life, and that's usually how it's worked the last few years as I make these videos. I get it on my heart to create something and share something, and then I have to deal with it. So then I have to walk my talk, which is a good thing. But I've been thrown into a huge change, and the first day I was in it, I was just emotional and here and there and everywhere, and I really had to focus in on these things that we'll be talking about to get through it. So I think there's two main areas of change that people go through, that we go through. And one is change that we want. We want to better our lives in some way, and we want to make a change that's completely different from where we're at. And then we have change that we're thrown into, that we didn't have a choice, that it's just boom, this has happened, and this is what we have to deal with. And although sometimes these things can be, someone passes away, things like that aren't going to be a good outcome either way, that you can't really look at it in that light. But most change we get thrown into, I've come to believe that when I connect the dots later on, it ends up being for the better. And I think a lot of times we want to make a change, but we don't make a change, and the universe kind of throws us into a change because it's what will ultimately be better. And as long as you have that outlook, it can be really helpful and much more easy to go through. I look at it, for instance, I lost a job a long time ago, and I never would have left the job, but I hated it. I liked it in the beginning. It was great, but I came to not agree with the company's policies and the people I was dealing with, and it was just not good for my soul, but it very much served its purpose. And had I not been let go from that job, ultimately I wouldn't have ended up where I am now, where I love what I do and I love the people, and it's perfect. I never would have left the job. So things like that. Sometimes you get thrown into a situation, a change that feels horrible, and then ends up being way better. So today we're going to talk about change and why it sucks, and why it's hard to change, what stops us from making those changes on our own, and what keeps us in that emotional spiral and clinging to and not wanting to change when we're thrown into the big change. So we'll talk about that today, why it sucks. I think awareness is key. I think sometimes we're just kind of floating around and getting thrown into something, or deciding we can't make a change, and we're not really understanding the mechanics of why. So I think it's really important to focus on the reasons why. Focus on these things that keep us from either easing into change or changing altogether. Because when you're aware of them, it just brings it to light, shines a light on the issue, and then you can work through it. I think when you're not aware of these things, you don't think about them, so you just struggle. Or I do anyway. So some of these will probably be, duh, yeah, I know that. And some of these you probably haven't thought of. So take what works for you, leave the rest. I'm sure a lot you'll know. Some hopefully will trigger a great idea that'll help you if you are going through change, or if you're wanting to change. I'll get into that later. Let's get to the first one. Let's get to it. The first reason I have of why it sucks to change is our body is conditioned to the norm. We are used to doing things the same. Our body is used to doing things. Any kind of disruption from that is going to be unfamiliarity that we're not necessarily going to want. If you wake up every day, do the same thing every day, go get your coffee here, see the same people at the same gas station, and you want to make a change, your body is not going to want to do that. Your body's going to want to be used to doing the same things, and we get into a routine, and that's how things are, and our body will reject that physically. So that's one of the main reasons it's hard, is that we're just conditioned to do the things. Our body is so used to doing the norm, and any shift from that is going to be, whether it's going to end up good, it's going to be an issue. And the next one is the fear of the unknown. When you want to change, and I think about, say, like with divorce, when you get a divorce, at least one of the people, once you get to the point of divorce, you've been through it, and you can see both sides. You can see what you're missing, what could have been, what you wanted it to be, the good times that there were, and you can focus on missing that and the negativity, or you can focus on what's ahead, the possibilities of what you can do now, of what might happen in your life. And so, not knowing what can happen, sometimes we'll cling to what's here now, instead of looking ahead to what the possibilities are, what it really could be like. And so not knowing that, not knowing if it'll work out, not knowing if you're going to fail, not knowing what it's going to look like, and it's just that fear of what's ahead, and you don't know. And not knowing is really scary to some people. And you might not realize that's what it is. You might not realize that you're really just scared of what's ahead, It's easy to look back and go, okay, well, I know this is going to happen. I know this is happening. I know this is the way it is, but it could be worse up there. So the fear of the unknown can be a big hindrance. That can be why it's so scary to change. The next one is the I'll do it tomorrow. Sometimes we'll get stuck. I don't know if anybody's ever tried to lose weight or get healthier. I've done that 100 times in my lifetime. But there's always that, I'll start tomorrow, I'll start next week, I'll start after the holidays, I'll start after my friend's birthday party, I'll start after that Saturday night when I'm going to go out and have that wine. There's always something that comes up that you want to start later. So that can be a hindrance too. It's always tomorrow, next week, I'll do that first of the year, that is a huge hindrance. And we got to stop telling ourselves that. But that can make it hard. You can have all these ideas, especially when you think of something like losing weight. Oh, I won't be able to hang out with these friends. I won't be able to go to my favorite restaurant. What am I going to do at birthday parties? And, things like that. And it's always something. So there's that, do it tomorrow. The next one, familiarity. I apparently can't say that word. Familiarity is comfort. Even if you are in a bad relationship, you know what you're getting. Even if it's bad, it's only this bad, and it could be worse. And so, even if it's not a bad thing, the norm is comfortable. Knowing what to expect. That's why people talk about getting out of your comfort zone. It's a comfort zone. It's an area that you're comfortable in, and any sort of change out of that is going to be uncomfortable. And we don't like to be uncomfortable. Especially a lot of us in the Western world, we've been used to comfort. We get used to comfort. We try to make our lives as comfortable as possible. And anything that's going to make us step out of that, we're like, maybe not. Even if the reward could be, 50 times better. The possibility that it might not be could keep you. So that familiarity, being comfortable, staying in that comfort zone is going to keep us from making a change or wanting to change, wanting us to stop fighting that change. The next one is you get used to stress hormones, and they're addictive. So even if you're living, most of the time, I think, when you want to make a change, it's because you're not completely liking where you're at. Sometimes you just things are fine, but you want to be better, and that's great. I think you'd have a less hard time if you're in that situation, though. So I think people who struggle more would be those who don't want to change. So you get used to those who don't want to change and who are having a hard time. So you get used to stress hormones, and they're addictive. You actually bond with other people. That's why you have a lot of people playing the oppression Olympics, and people complain about their hard life. Everyone's had hardships in their life. That's part of life. Everyone I've met, even those who seem to have it all, have the money, the house, the spouse, the family, the everything, have gone through so many hardships, and you can't look at anyone and get to know them and not see that they've gone through these hardships. But a lot of people bond with that. If you've noticed, I feel like I've noticed in the last 20 years or so that to get elected for something or to be on a show like American Idol or something, you'll always hear a sob story before. And I hate to say it that way, because it is, there are sad stories out there. Although everyone has them, everyone has struggles. That's life, that's what it is. Struggles and good things. But you get addicted to those. And so your body and your being doesn't want to let that go. Sometimes you hang on to that, and like I said, you bond with other people. You sit around, and misery loves company, and you talk to your friends, and you complain about your boyfriends, and you complain about work and everything that's going on, and those stress hormones, just like with dopamine, with people who have addictions, sex addictions, or video games or drugs or things like that. You get those dopamine hits and you get addicted to that, and it's the same as with the stress hormones. It's just a different kind of addiction. And so sometimes when you're in a negative situation, it would be hard to let that go, to let that addiction, those stress hormones, stop taking you over, because then what are you? What are you without your problems? Then who are you? For a long time, when I first became a single mother, I blamed everything on my ex-husband, and it was, oh, woe is me, and it's hard for me, and like I'm the only one in the world, things that ever happened to. And I was the only one in the world who had to raise kids on my own, and it just, you get hooked into that, and letting go of that story, letting go of those stress hormones, of that addiction is hard to do. So that's a thing that will keep you back from changing into a better way. And while I'm talking about that, if you have not seen my workbooks, I have written several workbooks for several different topics. If you are looking for change, they are fabulous. They're always linked down below. It literally doesn't get any easier. When you want to shift, when you want to change, it's a workbook that comes, you write in it, it's all written out for you. Talk about the things that are going on, what things need to change, activities to do every day to check off, to write down. So simple, so helpful. If you're interested, they're always below. I have other books too. Check them out. Also, I've started doing one-on-one sessions, so if you're interested in chatting with me personally over Skype, links below. Anyway, next one is, what will I lose? This is a big one. Sometimes it sucks to change because we think there's going to be a big loss. Sometimes you might want to move jobs. That would be difficult. Maybe you have friends at work. Maybe you're scared that it won't be the same. Maybe you're afraid to move. Maybe you want to move somewhere, but your family's going to be upset. A lot of times people will hold us back, and you worry about that. You worry, if I make this move, what's going to happen? Who am I going to lose? Am I going to lose family? Am I going to lose friends? Am I going to lose a job? What are people going to think of me? What will my losses be? Instead of looking toward the gains that you'll have in this change, we will focus on the losses. And that's, that's something that we're conditioned to do. We're conditioned to have analytical minds and not dreamer minds. Be analytical, make a list of pros and cons, think about what could happen, make sure you're 100% certain, instead of listening to your heart and following that, which, being a dreamer is considered almost an insult at this point in life, because you need to be analytical and you need to do the pros and cons and think about all the things instead of following your dreams, following your heart, following your passions. So I think a big fear of what I'm going to lose can keep me from changing, from making a change, or to stop freaking out about a change that I'm being thrown into. The next one is a downward spiral and setback. So you might start to make a change and then suffer a setback. Go back to your old ways. Something goes wrong. And we're like, forget it. It's never going to work. I can't change. I knew I shouldn't have tried. And that is not a good outlook. There's always going to be setbacks. There's always going to be things that happen that get in your way, and you just have to keep moving. You cannot focus on those things. I've actually found in my life, usually when there's a setback, when I spiral back, it's usually right before I fling forward. There's always going to be that contrast. If everything was always good, honestly, we wouldn't know it was good. It would just be good. There would be no contrast. We would have nothing to compare it to, the times that sucked. And as much as it sounds like it would be great, it wouldn't be great, because we wouldn't know it was good. Hey, it's really important, if you're going through change, when you have those setbacks, just look at them, see if you can see what caused it, don't dwell on it, keep going, and expect them. Expect setbacks, expect things to go wrong. That's how you grow, that's how you figure out what you need to do, that's what you figure out and hone in on what you really want, sharpen those ideas, but that can be a big stopper to us wanting to make a change or making that change. The next one, and nobody can do it for you. I like this one. Sometimes we want other people to do things for us. We want someone to come and save us. A lot of women have that idea of, I did for years, I need a man to come and save me and take care of all the things that I need to do, and you just don't want to do it for yourself. And you learn that as a child. Everything's taken care of. I saw my son when we travel. Sometimes we'd be on the way to go to the bus or whatever, and I would just be kind of on edge, and I'm just like, let's wait to talk about this until we're on the bus. I get so antsy because, and I would explain to him, you don't have to do anything for the travel. You just show up with your bag of stuff and you go, and I've got to buy it. I've got to make sure that we come at the right time. I've got to make sure we have the right travel documents. We have to, there's so many things, and I'm responsible for that. And as a child, he just shows up, and that's kind of, we kind of keep wanting that to happen. I just want someone else to do it for me. And that will keep us from changing if we have that mindset, if we have that idea that there's some savior that's going to come and whisk away all our problems. And also not a good mindset to be in. Nobody's going to come and save you. You've got to do things yourself. Nobody can do them for you. Most changes nobody can do for you. Luckily, like I said, a lot of women have that idea. I think that's traditional mindset. I was raised mostly by my dad, and one thing that he really taught me was make sure you make your own money, and you never rely on a man, because you might need to take care of yourself, and you need to be able to do that. And so that's always kind of been instilled in me. So I've not really had that fairy tale of someone's going to take care of me. Actually, when I was married, my husband didn't want me to work, and I wanted to work, and so I've always had that instilled in me. But I know it's a common thing, especially for women, and I'm sure for men too. I'm sure there's a lot of men that are like, I just want somebody else to do it. But that's not going to happen. You want things to change, you've got to put that action forward to get those changes yourself. The next one of how it is hard to change, why it's hard, why it sucks, is things are expected of you. I think this is a really hard one, especially if you are close with your family. I'm not. But if you, and also I've moved so much in my life. The first time I moved overseas, I was 9 months old. I didn't stop. Every couple of years or a year I move. So I don't have that. I'm able to change every time I move. If I want to, I can recreate myself. I'm not pegged down by what others think, but a lot of people with big families, with close families, if you've lived in the same place for a long time, it's really hard because everyone's pegged you as a certain way. You know, you're the shy one, you're the responsible one, you're the this one. Everybody has you pegged, and you fall into that way of life and what is expected of you. You know, if you've acted a certain way for 20 years and that's what they expect of you, and it's hard to break loose of that. It's hard to sometimes get past what your family and friends and coworkers might think. You know, what are they going to say? They're going to be like, you can't do that. You can't do that. You're not that way. That, you know, and it's hard to go against what your support group thinks. You know, it's hard to move forward and make a change, and worrying about that. I mean, I don't recommend worrying about what others think, but that's a hard skill to develop if you've not done it. But that will be a major setback. So realizing that that might be keeping you from making changes is what are others going to think? And, you know, it's not their life. It's not their life. Everybody has their own agenda, and you'll find that. That's why I always say don't share your dreams with people, because people, you know, maybe your mom doesn't want you to move out of town, so she'll have her agenda. Maybe other people have tried at their dreams and failed, or haven't reached for them because their fear of failure, and so they will try to talk you out of it. They will, to protect you, not even to be mean. Some people will just, you know, to be mean because they don't want people to succeed more than them. But some people, out of the goodness of their heart, will say that they don't think that you should do that because they're worried about you getting hurt. You have kids, you know that. You've tried, you know, it's hard to not keep your kid. You want your kids to be happy and healthy and safe and not hurt. And you want the world to hurt them, and sometimes you can shelter them a little, and I've done this myself, and try to keep the world from getting to them. And it's out of love, but it's not necessarily healthy. So worrying about what's expected of you can be a huge hindrance to change, and it's something that you have to look at and realize that you can't be living for other people. You can't go into a career because that's what your parents want. You can't stay in a career because that's what your coworkers want. You can't stay stagnant because you're worried about other people. It's your life. Now, this isn't to say to be irresponsible and screw everybody, I'm going to do what I want, I don't care. It's not like that. As long as you're not harming anyone, don't worry about the effect that it's going to have on other people. If everyone would be concerned with themselves and take care of themselves and be responsible for your own joy and your own passions and your own life, stop buttoning in everybody else's life, then you wouldn't have that problem. So don't be concerned with what's expected of you. It's very important to get out of those ideas, out of those boxes that everyone has put you in, if they have, and create your own boxes. Do your own thing. The next one, we get discouraged easily. You get discouraged very easily. You know, you ever try to lose weight, go to the gym for a week, you're not skinny yet. You're like, screw this, I'm going for ice cream. It's so easy because we want to see change and we want to see it now. And you know, when you look at changes that you make, generally you've been in a situation for a long time, for years, possibly many years, and you want it to change, and it's not just going to change in 1 minute. You know, it's not going to happen. So don't get so discouraged. Look at the long game. Keep going forward. Stop getting discouraged. Change will happen. Things don't change in a day after, you know, years of them being the way they are. It can be hard, Maybe you want a new job and you've applied to 60 jobs and you haven't gotten any responses yet. Don't get discouraged. What can you do? Can you tweak your resume? Can you apply to different types of positions? Just think outside the box and don't get discouraged and stop. That's a huge downer, and it's a easy reason to stop our change or to not even attempt, because we just think that we'll be let down. And the last one I have is fear of failure. This stops so much change, and it can keep us paralyzed if we're thrown into change. Maybe we've failed a lot. Maybe we've screwed up a lot. Maybe we've watched other people fail. Our usual norm is to look toward the bad things that could happen. People aren't generally, unless you work on it, people aren't generally used to being optimistic about the possibilities. If we were, a lot of people would be in a lot of better places because they would expect things to work out and they would go towards them, and they would. So we have this big fear of failure, and that can keep us paralyzed. If our fear of failure is greater than our desire for better, we're going to stay in that, and it's going to keep us from doing things, or it's going to keep us emotional and sad. And if we get thrown into a change, if we, I bring back like the idea of divorce. If we keep thinking about what we lost and how it was at a certain point, you don't, at least one person doesn't get a divorce by it being good the entire time. By the time you get to divorce, at least one of the people has been through it and has had enough, and the good times aren't the good times anymore, and they're over it. And it's time to move on. But it's very easy to still look at the good times that were there, or the ideas that you wanted it to be. And so we have this fear that it's not going to be better. It could have been better this way. And so it'll stop us. So we have to lose that fear of failure. What if you don't fail? Consider the possibility that you thrive. We're not really taught to do that. We're taught to make sure that we're safe, that we do things without a lot of risk, so that we don't, especially, your ego, that's your ego's entire job, is to keep you from hurting yourself. Remember that time? Remember that time you got in a relationship and you got cheated on? Don't get in another one. It could happen again. Remember that time you tried to open a business and it failed? And it keeps you from going on. It keeps you from moving on. That fear of failure. But you can't live on that. You can't focus on that. Focus on the possibility of thriving. Don't make stupid decisions. Don't throw all caution to the wind and be irresponsible. But allow yourself to hope. I don't really like that word. I don't know why I use that word. Allow yourself to focus on the possibility of thriving. Don't sit there and think about, what if I lose everything? It's gonna suck. No, what if I gain everything? What if this works out perfectly? Wouldn't that be great? And that changes your energy completely. And what you put out energetically is what you get back. So if you're paralyzed in fear, it's gonna be a struggle to change. But if you start focusing on, this could work. This is the change I want. This is the change I need. This is the change I'm being thrown into. I'm going that way, and it's going to be great. The fear of failure, just the opposite of that. The possibility of thriving. So don't let that keep you. So that's all I have. Although I do want to say, it's good to realize that you are addicted to the life that you're in. Your body's used to it. Your friends are used to it. It's your norm. It's just the way it is. and you're addicted to it whether you realize it or not, because it's the way it is. So realize that you have one shot in this body, in this life, whatever you believe otherwise, if you have more lives. If you don't, in this body, you have one that is known. So don't waste it on any of these reasons. Whether you are getting thrown into change and it doesn't feel good, or you want to make a change because you just want a better life. And who doesn't? Who doesn't want a better life? I hope this helps. And I look forward to continuing this. I have at least 2 more videos to talk about change. And I will see you soon.